Hi, my name is Stephanie Macias, and I am the Career Counselor for Union Institute and University. And this presentation is on career services for veterans. Some of the things that I'll be going over is how to use your military experience on a resume, understanding what are your transferable skills and the importance that they play in your transition, choosing the right resume format, how to write a cover letter, available resources and web links, and finding veteran-friendly companies. The first step for anybody who is looking for a job is to assess your skills. Veterans have a unique advantage because they can look to their NCOER, their award citations, and their counseling statements to help give them a little bit of insight into what their skills might be. And not only their skills, but personality, and any other interesting facts on these documents that can just give you some insight into yourself. ONET Online also has a great resource where you select your branch of service and your occupation, and you can actually get a list of all the skills you used for that position. And this is really helpful because I think for all people, when they're asked, well, what are the skills you used in your job or in your previous jobs? Sometimes when you're asked that question, it is a little hard to kind of think about the actual skills. You know what you did on a daily basis, but you're not sure what are the exact skills that you used to perform those tasks. So having something like this is really helpful because it does just that. It'll help you identify what are the skills that you used while you were in service. Doing assessments, of course, is a great way to assess your skills as well. And not only to assess your skills, but to assess your interests, your personality, what you value, what might be a good job match for you. There are so many assessments out there that are available to you. And for this discussion, assessing your skills, this is a great way to do that, just straight up assessments. There are free ones that are available online through ONET or through the Career Center here at Union. So I would take advantage of doing assessments. They're not only fun, but again, they give you a lot of insight into what you may be good at. Researching job descriptions is another great way to think about the skills that you might have to do specific jobs. Sometimes by simply reading a job description that you might be interested in, you'll have kind of a moment of clarity where you're thinking, oh yeah, I can totally do this job. I do have what it takes. I do have these skills. So researching jobs, on job boards such as Indeed is a great way to kind of evaluate yourself and think about what you are good at, what you can be good at, what can you do. And also asking former employers, professors, classmates, and coworkers. Sometimes other people have a better idea of what you're good at than you do yourself. So don't be afraid to ask people, what they might think are your skills as well. Once you have assessed and evaluated your skills and what you think that you are or what you can do well and bring to the table for an employer, the next step would be to find out where you could apply these skills. And this is done by career exploration. There are a few websites which I listed here. One is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Here you can find out information such as salary, job descriptions, what do people do on a daily basis in these positions, in these industries, any education that might be required for specific jobs, and just a load of information pertaining to any careers that might interest you. There is also mynextmove.org, which is geared primarily to veterans. ONET Online also has a great resource for career exploration, iseek.org, and again, using job boards and just kind of seeing what's out there now in the market is a great way to kind of get a feel for careers as well. There's another website called whatcanidowithmymajor.org. It's not on here, but it's another great resource because what it does is it gives you a list of a bunch of different degrees, and you would pick the degree that you were either thinking of getting or what you have, and then from there it'll give you a whole list of job titles, job industries, of the kind of jobs that would be available to you if you were to get that degree. So that one is called What Can I Do with My Major? And that is another great resource that is not listed here on the slide. Informational interviews are another fabulous way to do a little bit of career exploration. And what informational interviews are is pretty much where you interview an employer and you just want to find out and get some more insight into that position, that industry. So let's say you are interested in studying social work. You can call a social worker, let's say in a hospital or in a nonprofit organization, and just kind of interview them and ask them all the things that you are not able to find out easily online or through their website. And I have a great list of questions that students can use as a guide for these informational interviews, and I can also connect you to employers if you would be interested. So please let me know. Exploring through experience is, of course, one of the best ways to do career exploration. If you've kind of already decided on maybe not something specific, but maybe a specific industry that catches your attention. Because this does take up your time, of course. So anything as far as volunteering, doing an internship, a day where you just do job shadowing, or taking on an entry-level employment where you may not be necessarily doing the exact position that you want to do. However, you are in the same field and you are being exposed to different jobs that do catch your attention. And maybe it's even maybe it even serves as a stepping stone for your future goal or position that you want to achieve. So by the time you get around to writing your resume, you really need to know your skills and you really need to know your civilian objective. And those are the two previous steps that I recently just discussed. Once you've established these two areas, you can go on and write your resume. You want to make sure you gather all the necessary information, such as contact information, if you want to list, your LinkedIn, or if you have a blog that may help to sell your candidacy on your resume, you can go ahead and include that as well. You want to make sure you have your information as far as education, degrees, the dates you earned those degrees, your major. If your GPA is impressive, you can include that as well. And then, of course, your work history will need things such as the name of the employer, the dates you've worked, your job titles, your responsibilities, accomplishments, etc. Once you have gathered all the necessary information, you can decide which format would be best for you. There are two main formats. One is the chronological format, the other is the functional, or also called the skills-based resume. Those are the two main formats. However, you could use a combination of the two and kind of just mix them up in a way that would best market your skills. So there really is no right or wrong way to write a resume. You just want to write it in a way that, again, would best market your abilities, whether it's using one format or the other or combining the two. So here you have an example of a chronological resume. As you can see, this person up on the top has their contact information, followed by a title. Their title is Financial Analysis and Reporting. And putting a title is not something you have to do, but it really does kind of make your resume a little bit catchy. And it makes you be whatever title you put there. So it is just something that can be a nice addition. But again, you don't have to do it. Then followed by the title, this person writes a summary. Then followed by the professional experience, which, as you can see, is written in reverse chronological order. Here the person lists the dates they've worked, a description about what they did, and any accomplishments or anything that really makes them stand out in their position. So the chronological resume is really great for people who are trying to show off how their career has progressed throughout the years. And they're trying to maybe even stay in the same type of position that they have previously worked at. And that is why they kind of emphasize their previous experience. This is the most common resume that you will find. Most people use this type of resume, but it's not the only option, especially for people who maybe don't want to stick with the same type of positions they've had throughout the past and they're trying to move away from it. If you're someone like that who's trying to maybe change careers or you don't want to emphasize your work history, then a functional resume might be best for you. And so this is an example of a functional resume. Basically here this person has the same kind of format up top where he has the contact information, the summary of qualifications. But as you can see, there is no mention here about work experience. Here this person just talks about achievements and the skills that they have. And when you write this kind of resume, you want to make sure that what you're mentioning in these achievements and skills is relevant to the job you're trying to get. Then on the bottom, you can see this person has their education. So really there is no mention about previous employers on this guy's resume. But in the next resume I'm going to show you, there is some information about work history, but it's just not really that emphasized. Here this person, again, has their contact information followed by a summary. But instead of highlighting or emphasizing the work history, what they did was they picked the 4 most important skills that are relevant to the job they are trying to apply for. In this case, it's management, training, human resources, and operations. And what they did was they highlighted those 4 areas, and then below it they provided supplemental information that shows where they gained that type of skill, how they obtained that management and training experience, what makes them qualified in that specific skill area. So what's emphasized here is simply the skills. Then below it, the work history is listed, but there isn't too much information on there. It's just to show that you have worked in the past. You can put the employer, the dates, and your job title, and it's as simple as that. The real piece here is the skills, the management, the training, the human resources, the operations, and all the information that goes under it to show that you have experience in those areas. Using your military experience on a resume can sometimes be a little tricky. The first thing you always want to do is demilitarize the language that you're using on your resume. And this can be done by spelling out the acronyms or simplifying them. Make sure you state job titles rather than the MOS or the MOC. Change technical terms into the simplest terms possible so that the everyday person can understand them. Explain anything that might need clarification. And showcase your track record of accomplishments by translating them so the average citizen can understand. Military education. For some reason, some people think that their military education is irrelevant to the jobs they're trying to get nowadays, and it really isn't. It's just a matter of making the employer understand why they are valuable. So military schools definitely belong on a resume, so please put them on there. If the name of the school is not self-explanatory, describe the program. State why that experience was valuable and any accomplishments that you achieved. So I provided an example, Warrior Leadership course at Fort Bliss, Texas. Here this person explained that it was a 2-week course that used experiential learning to teach valuable skills in leadership, teamwork, and critical thinking. So now let's say this person who took the Warrior Leadership course was applying for a management position in a store. As a store manager, you need to have skills in leadership and teamwork and critical thinking. So this is how you tie in your past experience and future goals. You want to make sure you're using those terms, those buzzwords that are going to be important in your goal position. So now when you talk about skills on your resume, you really want to make sure you talk about these 3 kinds of skills. Marketable skills are the ones that the employer is looking for. They were marketed on the actual job description. So if you have any of those skills, you really want to make sure that you mention it either directly or you've explained it, that you've used it in a specific job that you've had in the past. But anything that you have that is on that job description that has been marketed on there, make sure you include it in your resume or in your cover letter. Then motivated skills are just the skills that you simply enjoy. And everybody wants to work doing what they enjoy, so it's also important that you mention these kind of skills even if they're not mentioned in the job description, because they're the ones that you really enjoy doing. Transferable skills are probably the most important skills, especially for veterans. And it's important that veterans understand they do have transferable skills. They did so much that can transfer with them to any other future job that they're interested in doing. It's just a matter of figuring out what those skills are. And the resources that I had mentioned earlier can definitely help you figure out what those transferable skills are. So if I haven't made it clear, transferable skills are any skills that you can take with you to any job. They're not job specific. They can go with you whether you're an accountant, whether you're in the military, whether you're a high school guidance counselor, or whether you're a teacher. And some of these things include leading, teamwork, planning, management, being organized, working under pressure, multitasking, good communication. These are all transferable skills. Sometimes the transferable skills are marketable skills, and sometimes they're motivated skills. The key is to understand what your transferable skills are. What skills can you take with you from the military and apply them to your new civilian job? And it's also good to provide specific statements how you use these skills, why you use them, for who did you use them, what was the purpose. A good example is here, trained over 20 soldiers in first aid techniques which facilitated deployment readiness for the unit. The key word here is trained. So I know this person's transferable skill is training. He can train employees because he trained 20 soldiers. So a few resume tips to just wrap it up and move on to the next topic. One is critical to make your military experience shine in a way that civilian employers understand. Make sure you avoid generic resumes and cover letters. The only reason you should have a generic resume is because you're applying to the same kind of positions. If you're applying to one social worker position, then for the most part you can leave your resume the same if you're going to apply to another social worker position. But if you're applying to be a restaurant manager and let's say a customer service agent, well, then those resumes should be completely different. One should focus on your management skills and that type of experience, while the other one should focus on your personality and your customer service skills. And the same goes for your cover letter. Another tip is try not to talk about your needs on your resume or your cover letter. Instead, what you want to do is address the needs of the employer. I have seen so many times that on the top of a resume in the summary, someone says they are looking for a career that will allow them to grow and to add to their skills. Well, everybody wants to grow. Everybody wants to gain more skills. Instead of making it about yourself, the best thing you can do is to make it about the employer. What does the employer want? Tell the employer what you have that he needs. What can you bring to the table? And that is what you should do. Instead of talking about your needs, you address the needs of the employer. Another tip is to avoid ranks and titles. This just can sometimes confuse the employer if they're not familiar with the military. Also choose language and terminology specific to a chosen industry and profession. All industries have kind of a lingo that they use. Get familiar with that lingo and try to use some of those words in your resume to show that you fit into that culture and that industry. Never use any acronyms because employers will probably not understand them, and it will kind of just discourage them because they don't know. So spell things out for them. Make it easy for them. Simplify it, as I mentioned before. Your cover letter should always show your non-military side and distinguish yourself as a talented candidate. And of course, translate military words into corporate words. Using a thesaurus can really help with that. So now I want to talk about the cover letter. The purpose of the cover letter is, well, one, to increase the chances of getting you an interview, so that's a plus. It can also clear up any problem areas that you're having on a resume. Maybe you're changing careers, maybe you have gaps in employment. This is your chance to kind of explain yourself. It also gives you the chance to explain how your experiences are important to the job that you are applying to. It convinces the reader in your interests, skills, and candidacy for the position, and it also allows your personality to show. So here you have what should be going into the cover letter, the content. In the first paragraph, you just simply introduce yourself, express your interest in the position. You can indicate where you learned of the opening, and mention any mutual contacts. The second and third paragraph is where you write a short summary of your career in which it's tailored to fit the company you're approaching. And it is very important that you keep that in mind. You always want to tailor it to fit the company and the position you are approaching. Give a general overview of your previous experience and relate it to the position you're applying for, and talk about relevant accomplishments. Then finally, in the last paragraph is where you thank the reader for their time and consideration, request for their action, and of course, sign your name. Networking is an aspect that is important for all job searchers, veterans or not. LinkedIn group is a great way to kind of connect with other professionals in your field. And then aside from those groups, there are also veteran networking groups that you can join as well. But don't just join the military veteran networking groups. You also want to make sure you're participating in things that are specific to your profession. So in this case, you have an advantage because you have many groups that you can kind of participate in and get feedback from. There are a lot of mentorship opportunities that are available to veterans. If anyone is interested in that, please let me know. Basically, it's when you're connecting U.S. veterans to business leaders through mentorships and online career advice. And this is not only a networking opportunity, but it is also a mentorship opportunity, someone that can kind of just guide you and give you feedback as you transition. Then there are veteran networking websites. Two I have listed here, which are Veteran Career Network or Vet Friends. And networking with your family and friends is the easiest way to go to. When you're looking for a job, everybody should know that you're looking for a job. Your family, your friends, classmates. Reach out to your professors, ex-coworkers, ex-supervisors. When you're looking for a job, you really want to network with all the avenues that you have available to you. So a few other resources that are available to you are careerinfo.org, and they actually have a great tool where you can find civilian occupations that match your military skills. So for somebody who is just transitioning and they really don't know what they want to do, this could be a great way to get started. Figure out where you can apply the skills that you already have. Careerinfo.org also has a lot of other helpful information. Here you can search for jobs, you can take assessments, you can get advice on writing a resume or cover letter. It's a really great site, so I would definitely check it out. Locating veteran-friendly companies. Here I gave you one website. There are many. By simply doing a Google search, you will be so surprised how easy it is to find veteran-friendly companies. You always want to consider the companies that advertise in print and digital media like Military Transition News, Stars and Stripes, military.com, and similar organizations. And also jobhunt.org is a great site for finding resource centers by state, and they have every single state is on here. So if you're looking for a resource center, you can check that out. And then, of course, there are transition assistance programs, so use them. You did your time in the military, and you should take advantage of all these programs that are out there to assist you. So best practices for job interviewing. I just wanted to go over a few little tips to really help you be successful at job interviewing. One of the most important things that I want to stress is that job interviewing is a skill. So the more you practice it, the better you will become at it. And you'll actually take notice as you go on job interviews. The first job interview you go on, for the most part, you're going to feel like you did horrible. Most normal people, this is what happens. And then as you continue to go on more and more job interviews, you just do better and better and better because you are continuously practicing your job interviewing skills. So with that said, I really encourage you to practice your interviewing skills. You can do this through a mock interview with the Career Center, or you can do it with someone at home, a friend or sibling, parent, wife, husband, whoever. I can definitely provide you some sample questions that are industry specific, and you should have answers kind of ready to go. Anticipate questions and have answers prepared. This really helps you on your job interviews, because if you go there with a blank slate and you got nothing to say, you're kind of thinking on the spot, and then you kind of come off as you're not prepared. But if you have answers ready to go, you can really knock the socks off your employer. So anticipate the questions. Practice your interviewing. Before you go on a job interview, contact your Career Center here at Uni and schedule a mock interview, and let me coach you and give you some feedback on the answers that you have prepared, and maybe we can tweak some of the answers. And it really helps to just feel confident overall. Another tip is to do your research beforehand. Make sure you know about the employer and what the company does and what they're doing recently in the news. Do they have any events going on? Just be in the know. Of course, arrive on time and dress for success. You want to look the part, so make sure that you do that. Always write a thank you note and thank the employer for their time. This can be sent by email, or even a quick phone call could be helpful. Don't be afraid to follow up either. If a week has passed and you haven't heard anything, you can pick up the phone or send an email and just reiterate your interest in the position and follow up. You want to know if, they hired anybody, or are you still being considered? There's nothing wrong with that. And lastly, accept rejection with graciousness. You're not going to be offered every position that you go to interview for, and that's okay. You can take that opportunity and, of course, thank them. You can ask to connect with them on LinkedIn. If they can be, a future connection, if they hear about any other positions, can they let you know? There's nothing wrong with being rejected. Just make the best of it is the point. So I want to go over illegal interview questions because sometimes it happens, especially with veterans. Understand that an illegal interview question is any question related to race, color, religion, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, age, marital status, disability, or status as a veteran or disabled veteran. The best practices in dealing with illegal questions go as follows. 1, you could choose to answer it. If you are comfortable and you just want to avoid the awkwardness and you're fine with it, just answer it. It's really not a big deal. But if you are uncomfortable and you don't want to answer it, know that you don't have to answer it. And the best way in dealing with the question is just to assure them that the question at hand will not interfere with your capability to do the job. And I would definitely avoid telling them the question is illegal. This just might blow your entire interview, unfortunately. So here are some examples on how you can answer illegal questions. How old are you? Do you have any children? You can say, well, I meet the age requirements for this job. I assure you that my personal life will not interfere with my job. And if they really just keep on asking the question and they really want to know, you can say something simple like, I'm curious to know how that question relates to the job. And that will usually end it right there. A few veteran-specific illegal questions to watch out for are any questions that relate to your physical, mental being. Sometimes they wonder if you have post-traumatic stress or you have any injuries, see a psychiatrist. They want to know about your combat, if you've ever been hurt. They want to know if you're going to be deployed anytime soon. And they might ask you what kind of discharge you received from the military. A great way to answer all these questions that are veteran related is to assure them there is nothing in my records that would impair my ability to succeed in the job. So that is my webinar on career services for veterans. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you can contact me at careerservices@myunion.edu.